Okay, well, afternoon everyone. It's 3 o'clock. So welcome. Good to see so many of you here. Hope you're having a good time with the exhibition so far. I'm here to talk to you about this slightly intriguing topic here, combining HR digital strategies and employee engagement. What are the pitfalls? So I've been around sort of 16 odd years doing 20 years doing HR systems. 16 years with the company I currently run, and I've seen quite a lot of change in the whole kind of area of doing sort of HR systems. So in the beginning, there kind of wasn't such a thing as employee engagement. Engagement, although it's not a new thing, it wasn't there when I started my career. I was starting at PwC, we did these big HR implementations, and it was a very different game. Actually, last year I had the sort of dubious pleasure of going to try and sell an HR system to Sports Direct. And many of you will have seen this in the news last week. Mr. Mike Ashley hauled in front of the Commerce Select Committee. Might have something to do with share price bombing, I don't know, but eventually it turned up. And he was asked this quite interesting question by a lady: how do you benchmark employee engagement? Asked an SNP woman. All right, busybody. Mike's eyes narrowed. He repeated the question as though tasting garlic bread for the very first time. Benchmarking engagement? Nah, workers just threw surveys in the bin. So it seems that some people actually haven't moved into the world of sort of an appreciation of what employee engagement actually is. And certainly, as I said, in my early days as a consultant initially doing sort of HR systems projects, it was enough just to get off blue screens and big IBM 360 mainframe horrible stuff. Let's just get HR data into a system where we can do something with it. And engagement really was little more than just sort of hands-on people management from the immediate line. So apologies, if I'm taking you through things this is things I'm sure there's a range of experience in the audience here. I'm just taking you through a little bit of background. And certainly when I was working at Tesco, which I did sort of fairly early on in my career, they kind of got things off the blue screen, and they were measuring KPIs, and there was red, amber, green this, and they were managing people to productivity index of 1.2, and how much could they beat people up, and with a stick, can they make people work harder? And that was just really how HR used to be for a very long time. And suddenly, although it's not new, there's a thing called employee engagement. Around about 2009, a seminal paper by Anita Clark and David McLeod, Engaging for Success. Many of you will know about this. And it basically spoke of how employees could be motivated so that they were aligned with company objectives. And it was creating that environment and the influence HR had to create that environment to really push people more in terms of their own motivations rather than kind of beating them up through KPIs. So you can sort of liken this to the stick and the carrot, really. Instead of the old school kind of stick, red, amber, green, productivity index, it was about saying, let's work as a team, let's network, let's share best practice. You can be a brand ambassador for our company and really be involved and enthused by what the company's doing, because we'll be very open and create that framework and that environment for people to be motivated and want to do things rather than feel that they must do them through the traditional methods. And as I say, it's not a new thing. So this has been around since 2009, and hindsight tells us they were right. And all the measures of engagement have shown that engaged employees stay longer with the company, there's less turnover, there's fewer days sick, they speak well of the company, they are genuine brand ambassadors and kind of help with the customer service to improve customer advocacy. Many people say it brings out the most creative ideas. And actually there's a direct correlation between engagement and the bottom line, which we'll come back to. So traditional engagement, as it was, is, well, how do we measure this thing? How do we measure this sort of feeling of being engaged with a company? And maybe questionnaires, that was the sort of obvious way of doing it. The annual survey would go out, and it would sort of say, well, what do I think of this, and give you point scores and all the rest of it. It'd be a great big exercise in coming up with a questionnaire, sending it out, bringing it back, reviewing it, thinking about what we do, and building it into the people business plans next year. And that was very much the kind of the role of, I suppose HR's role was limited in sort of feeding into that kind of employee engagement survey annually. And that was how things used to be. You'd have the inputs, you'd do the survey, you'd work on the outputs and take actions in the business. And so HR thinking, well, this is great, we're seeing these results come back, but what role actually should HR take in the business? And I keep this packed up. Right, so even to this day we have this problem. When we're going into customers now, there is this kind of problem of who leads engagement in an organisation. You've got your comms and marketing people who say, well, we do this for our customers. So we can do it for our customers, we can do it for our internal staff. You've got sort of IT function saying, what if we go out to CIPD Show and select a good platform, if we make that product, build, procure, or even build it in-house, like an intranet, people will just come, we'll create a platform, people will just come and use it. And HR saying, well, hang on, we have the best view here, and we manage the overall employee profile. Actually to this day, we haven't been able to kind of make the most of that data that we hold about a person. So the question is, who should lead engagement? And probably traditionally it's been led from more of an IT and a comms perspective rather than HR. We've been involved in a number of different sort of companies and engagement portals that are using these type of methods to engage with staff. There's portals that are on top of existing sort of big ERP systems, and others that are kind of more kind of homegrown and organic and a full suite. So just some of the people we've been working with recently have embraced this idea of portals and making an entry point for all of their people in the organisation to see the right content for them, for their job and their development. And we see this type of slight enhancement or difference to the people profit chain in retail. Again, we do a lot of work in retail. It's approximately £2,500 to induct and train a new starter and get them productive. So if you can reduce the employee turnover by even 1%, there's actually a very real kind of benefit to the bottom line that can be recognised just by kind of putting in these engagement portals. I mean, we could talk forever on that, and please come see us on stand if you like one. But engaged employees are more productive. So aside from that sort of hard benefit, there's other things. There's fewer sick days, there's increased productivity, better service, and it all kind of makes sense. It's sometimes perceived as a sort of fluffy layer. Let's not worry too much about it, but there are sort of hard benefits and real things that come off the back. So despite all of this, there's still only, by the sort of current measures of highly engaged employees, probably only about 25% of employees are measured as highly engaged. And that's a significant sort of productivity gap that the UK suffers from. We don't have particularly high productivity rates, and one of the reasons is around the engagement problem in the UK. So why haven't things moved on? We've implemented these nice portals and people are happy with them. Why can't we kind of see that productivity? And the problem is, we're here at a software show today, and it's not just software. Clearly engagement requires a number of different factors to make it work. It needs good management, it needs a culture, it needs people who are flexible. Yes, it needs systems as well, but that's only one factor. So just ramming in an intranet and hoping for the best isn't going to kind of work. It's got to be a sort of a general piece of business change that's executed around the tools that are used. And HR, I think a really important point here is that probably HR haven't done their bit to date in really driving through employee engagement, because the tools maybe haven't been sophisticated enough to make use of the job profiles of the positions that people have. So it's kind of, well, I see you doing an intranet, that will be fine. And now we're moving into a world where that old traditional engagement, the annual surveys, that type of thing, that's all dead, and we're moving into a world of digital engagement, which is really where I want to focus the remainder of the discussion. So digital technology, really critical to help you feel connected. The problem is it's moving on at such a pace, and how do we keep track of it? So in the beginning there was no engagement, then we had traditional engagement, and now we have digital engagement. So it's all changed. It's such a truism to say that. I almost feel stupid saying, digital technology is with us. Well, of course it is, but perhaps the way to bring it to life is, I don't know when the last time was you lost your phone, but genuinely it's like cutting off your arm. I lost my phone a while ago, just had not a clue. I was stuck in London, couldn't phone my wife, it's completely lost. Where's the phone boxes? They've gone. You're absolutely lost without your phone. It is genuinely like part of an extension of your body, and it is changed. I remember the old days when I first got a mobile phone. This is fancy, but you don't really even use phones just for mobile. It's how do I get home? Where's the buses? Where's the trains? Pizza, order pizza. Amazon delivery, has it arrived? All the time we're engaged with this thing that we are utterly dependent on. And yet, some of our systems we're using at work just haven't kept pace. Having a few issues with the Twitter. So I think it's because it takes a while to. I'll do that slide first. Definition of work. Briefly, millennials are saying, well, this isn't keeping pace, so I have to go into work now and again to use this really rubbish old technology, and as soon as I'm out of work I can start Twittering and Facebook and everything else, and I'm happy again. Actually, millennials are saying that 90% check their smartphones before they even get out of bed in the morning, just for updates and news. That's just unbelievable. There's traffic peaks on Twitter at lunchtime. We know this. It's just so prevalent and so with us. And I find myself really struggling to keep up with my younger generation of all these things coming through, the latest things, Instagram and whatever it is now. Someone will shout things at me, I'm sure, but it's tricky. And so millennials are making up more of this population. They have this expectation of being digital, right from the outset. I remember my son coming up to my laptop and starting to try and sort of stroke it, and because he thinks that's touchscreen. It's incredible kind of expectation from the age of 3 or 4 that these things should just work like that. Also this expectation about flexibility. Surely all this technology, it means we can be more flexible, and it should. But the question is, does it in your organisation? Probably not, because we haven't kind of moved with the technology. And there's a third point, which is that often sort of IT, and I'm not sort of decrying IT, it's very important to maintain secure records and everything, but there are methods now of doing authentication and security that aren't quite so restrictive as they used to be. So, for instance, McDonald's are doing something called federated authentication, where your identity is linked to a social account, and you can log in through your social account into core HR self-service systems, and they're happy with that as a global standard, and they believe it's secure enough, and it is. And it kind of moves the password resetting problem away from McDonald's as an organisation, but still maintains sufficient security to link their social user with their internal identity in the organisation. So the technology is there to allow this type of access from anywhere, from home, from anywhere. And so, how should digital engagement actually work? Well, first of all, it shouldn't just be limited to an annual survey. This is a continual thing now that HR have to embrace. They have to sort of reinforce this culture of making teams and bring in not just content, but also collaboration and sort of utility, if you like, this idea of self-service transactions, of shift swaps, of absence bookings, of training roadmaps, and making all that available for people. And if you get this kind of pull from these three sources, that's the best way of doing digital engagement. And I think the other part is looking back and making a kind of a unified experience. So people are a bit sick of, I've got this app for this and this for this, and I've got to remember 17 different passwords to log on to all my different systems. And it's really difficult. Although it might be a great idea, some of these things have a massive spike of usage and then tail off because people get fed up of logging in 6 different times. And actually coming up with the technology to bring a unified experience where you have a single point of entry and you're single signed on to all those other kind of apps, or on a common platform, that's a really important part of digital engagement. So it needs to be mobile, it needs to be engaging, it needs to be flexible to be extended, because attention span's pretty low. If I've got a game this month, I definitely want a new game next month, because that game won't be used after a period of time. So being flexible to swap in different ideas, looking at the usage profile as well, of what's going on, what can we retire, what can we bring in to keep it fresh. And as I said, I think there's this three-way kind of input that's needed to make digital HR engagement work. It's about content, so traditional kind of intranet type stuff. It's about collaboration. So many of you will have worked, I'm sure, with things like Yammer and Jive and some of these collaboration tools. Some people even resort to using things like WhatsApp, outside of the enterprise. And there's certain kind of jeopardy with that in terms of brand reputation and employee data going amiss, which you have no control over. And applications, the traditional self-service type stuff with tier 1 vendors like SAP, Oracle, Workday, the tier 2 type stuff, specialist vendors as well. It's bringing all that together in one place, and that's the key to digital engagement, because it means that you don't have to log in all over the place, and people are genuinely engaged in a single unified experience for the whole lot. Sounds easy, doesn't it? It's not very easy. Because you've got these traditional kind of HR platforms that exist. You may have Oracle or SAP or existing traditional things, even homebred stuff. And then there's this new world where we want to get this sort of lovely unified thing, the content, collaboration applications through lovely mobile portals, And Gartner have called this problem sort of bimodal system development. So how do you weave in the new world into the old world in a way that's nice and easy? It allows an easy transition and business change to happen effectively. Because most enterprises don't have the luxury of being kind of startups and born digital. They have legacy systems, legacy culture, and that needs to be addressed. And there is a place, of course, for the traditional HR systems, but it's about being agile and looking at that other side of the Gartner bimodal IT that's going to make a difference and make it really work. So HR is the master of all this key personal data that can really sort of unlock the digital experience. And obviously have the best view of the employee profile, career progression, succession, all the things I want the enterprise to do. The temptation is to try and solve it by saying, we'll choose a point solution here and here and here and here, and try and kind of make all these disconnected things kind of work together. Our experience again is that doesn't work very well. You tend to get spikes of activity, then drop off, and everyone gets bored and disillusioned with it really. And internally everyone says, it's a bit too hard. IT say, we've spent some money on this, we're locked into contracts that don't align with usage patterns. It's just a bit of a nightmare having this disconnected world. Just as a small kind of interlude, have a look at that. It's one of the oldest sort of visual illusions sort of out there. But you see kind of, if you move your eyes left to right, I don't know if it works in this sort of light, you see kind of blue dots between the squares. Everyone see that? And we're sort of, it's a little bit tenuous this, but we're sort of hardwired to look for uniformity. So in our brains, I actually did a degree in neuroscience, believe it or not, and there's lots of funny things like this. The brain does tricks, visual illusions. But I suppose my point is that if we're sort of hardwired to kind of look for uniformity, no wonder it's annoying when you get all this disconnection. A bit tenuous, but I'll move on. So we're trying to make this unified experience away from the fragmented sort of world of all these best of breed perhaps things, or little kind of WhatsApp here and something else here, actually into this sort of overall unified solution that has content, collaboration, applications on any device and is available anywhere in a secure way. And that's the new world of digital HR. That is where we need to get to, and there's no excuse not to be there now with technology as it is and things moved on as they have. So it works best when we have these things all under one roof: the content, the news, the document repository, maybe company information, maps and locations, org hierarchies, dashboards. Information about the company has to be there, undoubtedly, the traditional intranet type stuff. But also collaboration with the discussion groups, surveys and quizzes, who's online, event calendars, ways of people maintaining and keeping it fresh at the level in the organisation. If I'm in a restaurant and I want to arrange a drinks event that night, that goes out just to the restaurant I'm in. So making it accessible and easy for people to do that type of kind of collaboration. And then actually giving people access to the self-service around sort of learning, vacancies, absence, all those type of things. And bringing all that under one roof is what works best in our opinion. And sort of creating this unified experience that works for employees, team members, and managers and operations. Single system, but log-ons have different look and feel depending on your role. That's really, really key to get that right. And most intranets probably don't get that right. So as I'm coming into land, so the last piece of this is, the last part of that title was, what's the pitfalls associated with all of this? It all sounds great, What are the pitfalls? What should or shouldn't we do? Well, doing nothing isn't the answer. If we do nothing, we won't retain skilled people. The millennials particularly just expect you to be digitally sort of oriented in everything you do. So we've got to make it work. That will attract talent, that will drive the successful collaboration you need, that will allow engagement to really work and build culture, and particularly the leadership as well, this idea of keeping finger on the pulse of the organisation. If leaders can see this stuff coming in and act on it and sort of think, okay, well, I've actually got data to manage about who's being social with who, what things are working, where are the trends, and that will give managers another tool that they can use to help build the culture of the organisation. The other thing we think we need to avoid is patching disparate solutions. We've seen so many sad cases where this hasn't worked. Gartner themselves say that 80% of all social business efforts fail, which is quite a harsh sort of number, really. I'm sure these all started with great intent. We need to help people collaborate and all the rest of it. But the reality is, because of the sort of point nature of those things, just thinking we can solve it. If we just tick the WhatsApp or this, it doesn't really work very well. You get this peak of usage and then a very rapid drop off. We see that again and again, and it's sad. And the only way you can prevent that is by generating this pool of information, collaboration, and digital HR, which is the self-service, because there's a need and a drive for people to log in every day to do things, look at their holidays, do shift swaps, do whatever it is they need to do, as well as maybe look at benefit sites, handbooks, as well as collaborate with my mates during the come to the pub tonight. So it's all of those things are what drives success. And when you get that, the benchmark is really that 50% of people log in every day to that system. That's a good benchmark we see, certainly in some of our clients. That tends to be the benchmark of success when you have a really good engagement portal. Everyone's logging in every other day, or roughly 50% of people are logging in every day to do something. A couple of other interesting things Gartner have said is that by 2016, 50% of large organisations have internal Facebook-like networks, and fairly obvious based on what we've said, I suppose, and the gamification, gamified social mobile kind of fusion is where things are going. So it's all obvious stuff, but we need to push on with making it happen. And the last thing, the third one from last thing about being careful is information security is a real problem. We have responsibility to make sure information security is maintained in an organisation, and keeping the HR directors out of prison is an important thing. And we're finding that sometimes people are so desperate to solve things, and sort of, if you like, IT are a bit reticent to get involved, because it's a bit hard. But they're just going to say, just set up, your own Facebook account for your site, your area, your department, or just use WhatsApp to do this and do your sharing. And there's this sort of very blurred line between what's social and what's work, and that's very dangerous actually. There's a few sort of nasty sort of headlines that have come up about personal data and certainly brand reputation, where people have leaked things onto the open internet. Is a sort of dangerous place where things can get out of hand very quickly, and keeping on top of all that is really important. So if you just leave this sort of unregulated and don't tackle it at all, that's what happens. People just rush to the open internet to do things, blur the lines between social and work, and you start to get in trouble about where your HR policy lines should be. What we're saying we can't allow people to use social network at all, we're clearly not. Or hang on, they need to share things about what they're doing in work, but then we're not giving them any opportunity to do so. It can become very tricky, that balance. And in 2015, according to a government survey, about 13% of large organisations had some kind of data breach because of this problem of social networks not being regulated, not being sort of aligned with HR policy, which is quite a scary statistic. But this is also an interesting one, which you may or may not know about. The European Parliament, depends on whether we stay in the EU, I probably won't do a vote on that just now, but if we stay in the EU, this will be a problem. Could be a problem anyway, because we'll probably embrace something very similar. Basically, there's some fairly rigorous regulation coming in by EU about privacy by design and default. So that whole kind of approach of, let's just let it all go online on the internet, kind of won't be allowed through this legislation. It's going to take a couple of years to bring in, but data protection of personal data needs to be designed in the development of all business processes, and they've defined, the European Commission has defined personal data as any information related to an individual, and even, as you see, posts on social networking sites. So it's not to scaremonger, but there are problems with letting business and social networking sites kind of collide, and we need to provide a sort of controlled environment for that to happen. If you like, this kind of Facebook for the enterprise, for the business, which has to be joined up in a unified way with other things too. And finally, kind of focusing on the wrong things. It's easy to just sort of focus on the wrong things, and you need to build into your HR digital kind of strategy the way in which you take feedback and act on that feedback. So being very flexible is a really important thing. What people are using, what they're not using, what can we retire, what can we repurpose to really drive usage. This is a particular website we like. It's called the Star Conspiracy. Maybe worth having a look at. They're very much at the forefront of engagement, lots of good ideas, and wellness recognition, and actually measuring engagement in a continuous way. That seems to be where the current trends are, and this is kind of changing all the time. So it's important to recognise this does change, and when it changes, to react to it quickly. and build that continuous feedback into your thinking, your systems, and your processes. So that's really comes to the end of my talk. Just to summarise then this slide, there was this time before engagement, long time ago. Possibly still some companies who don't take this at all seriously, still managing through the stick, not the carrot. And they're going to have to adapt and come across at some point with that. They won't attract any talent. I mean, there's traditional engagement methods that many companies have embraced. The annual survey, acting on the annual survey, and that's good. That's a good start point, and starts to kind of move people towards aligning their personal motivations with the objectives of the company. And HR really has got to sort of pick up the mantle on that and say, we've got that far, but we can do a lot more because we know about job profiles, we know about where we have succession gaps, we know about the talent plan for the organisation. So why don't we help make that experience more segmented and drive in the new world of digital this single unified platform where there's information with the pool, the three-way pool of information, collaboration and self-service all under one roof, anytime, any place, anywhere, any device. And it needs to be secure, not just this kind of hope that if we bring all these things together under a patchwork, it will work. And that creates the win-win for the business. So that's the end of my talk. Many thanks for listening. I hope there's something there was of interest, and delighted if we've got some white papers actually on this subject at the back on the way out. So please do grab white paper. There's a lot more detail in there about all the research that underpins the discussion today. And come and see us on the stand. So elementsuite over in the far corner over there. But thanks for your time.